What's up guys? Brian here, back with another video from Giant Travels by Van. Today I'll finish installing my cabinets. Welcome back to Giant Travels by Van. Today I'll finish installing my cabinet wall and show you how I did some upholstery. Don't forget to enter in the comments if you think you know where the inspiration for today's intro came from. Let's get started. To complete the installation of my cabinets, I first needed to insulate and close in the area below the cabinets where the wheel well was. So I cut some polyiso board and a piece of plywood to skin over that area. Since the wheel well extended in front of the forward support for the cabinets, I also needed to box in this area. So I custom fit some polyiso board there and covered it with 1/2-inch plywood here to be a little more durable. As I mentioned in my previous video, I needed to complete this upper right cabinet area, which would provide me a little more storage, and then the door here is going to be used for my switches to turn lights on and off in the vehicle. So I started off with cutting a piece that would fit within the space of the countertop, in other words, set back from it a little bit, and started assembling it here on the bench. One of the things that can help with doing work like this is having something to check the angles that you need to match. So devices like this that'll let you set an angle and then match it or trace a line to it are helpful when you're trying to get something to a custom angle like this. This is the view from inside of this piece looking out through the opening, and as I'm gluing it up, I'm using some supports here. You can make a couple of these from scrap wood, just make sure you get a good right angle, and then I cut some openings where I could put quick clamps on it and clamp it to the piece and hold anything you want at a right angle while glue is setting up. I cut some trim to fit on the right end of the cabinet here by the door. First a flat piece that comes up from the countertop, and that was glued to a piece at a right angle that was shaped to fit the curvature of the wall coming up. And the front portion of that then became the flat area to mount the piano hinge on that would swing the door open. I just wound up using angle brackets and bolts to mount this section to the existing cabinetry, and then riv nuts to get it mounted to the wall on the right side. I next needed to build the drawer for the cabinet. The best way to make sure you get a good true square drawer is to cut the front and back together as shown here, and then cut the sides together in one pass. That'll ensure they're precisely the same length. I laid it out to do a loose fit, make sure everything would assemble correctly, and then I marked to cut the sides to length here. This was an easy glue up. Remember that the bottom of the drawer should be floating in the groove that you cut all the way around. I needed to protect the inside of the drawer from wear, so I tried something new here, a combination stain and polyurethane product from Rust-Oleum. I wasn't really happy with the results. It was kind of splotchy and you didn't have a way to really brush that out or manage it. But it's okay, it'll protect a drawer. It's just going to have silverware and stored items in it. And I'll cover the bottom with some plastic anyway. So it came out okay, but I don't think I'd use the product again. To mount the drawer slides in the cabinet, you need to make sure that they'll be level when you place them in. So I'm using my square here clamped to the outside of the cabinet, and then I set the drawer slide on that and mark this first hole for drilling. When you drill, put some tape on the drill bit at the depth that's the maximum you want to drill, and then you won't penetrate through to the other side. After drilling this initial hole, I mounted the drawer slide to the wall through it, and then drilled out the other holes and added the additional screws to get a good sturdy mount. To mount the drawer to the drawer slides, the trick I use is to cut a couple of scrap pieces of wood like this just to the height that I want to have the drawer clear above the lower space of the opening. And then I place one of the sticks at the front and near the back, insert the drawer, and now you can pull the drawer slide forward to that first screw hole and bring the drawer forward to match it, and you'll have a good height mount that'll give you just enough clearance at the bottom of the drawer. For this build, I wanted to have a European style inset drawer, so the drawer slide was set back far enough to allow the face of the drawer to be placed on it and just match the front of the cabinet. When I installed the drawer handle, I wound up using a couple of washers behind it to distribute the load. And so I carried this motif when I added a couple of bolts out at each end of the drawer face and bolted through. In all cases here, I was using bolts rather than screws, just for durability and longevity in a van environment. I had mentioned in my previous videos that I sprayed all of my woodworking, and I was in Harbor Freight again, decided to take a picture of the HVLP air sprayer that I use. It works well, again, if you thin your paint out with about 5% water. So I use Bare Premium Plus, add 5% water to thin it, and then the gun sprays it very well for me. Here you can see the wheel wells fully boxed in now, and as well I made some custom trim to fit at the side door there where the plywood ends, that matches pretty much the shape of the door rubber seal. When you're using riv nuts, you'll find that there are times that you need to be able to mark a piece of wood where the hole should penetrate it to match up with the riv nut. A trick I use is to use one of the threaded bolts, grind the head off of it, and maybe even make a little bit of a point on it. And then you can thread this into the riv nut and then put your wood up against it, tap it a couple of times, and it'll mark the wood. And then you'll have a good location to drill the hole to put your bolt through. To give the cabinet wall a finished look, where it wrapped around the curve to the back door, I wanted to try and add some upholstery. And I came up with the idea to use these aluminum door threshold strips and cut them in half on the table saw, which would give me the kind of profile I wanted, where it was flat and then with a bent over edge, so that I could cover the end of the upholstery using these strips of aluminum and some sheet metal screws. I cut these to the lengths that I needed and drilled and screwed them into the van wall, just about 1.5 inches back from the rubber seal for the rear door, which is where I could get a good straight line up and over across the top and down the other side to bind the upholstery. To fit the curve of the doorway, there were a couple places where I used a small wooden block and a mallet to pound it into the shape to conform well to it. But overall, I was pleased with how well I could get it to conform to the shape of the doorway going up, over, and down. For upholstery, I purchased some automotive headliner that has a light foam backing on it. And I cut this into 10-inch wide strips, which would get it far enough behind the plywood wall skin that I was putting up. And then I used contact adhesive, much like I used to put down the Formica countertop onto the plywood. It worked well to spray a layer of that on the wall, spray it onto the backing of the upholstery, and then carefully match the edge where the aluminum strips would fasten it down and smooth it around with your hand to go behind the skin of the wall. Then I just reinstalled the aluminum strips that I had cut in half from the door threshold to use as edging to finish off the upholstery so that you couldn't pull it loose. Once the wall was back in place and the cabinet in place, it gave a good finished look, and I was pretty satisfied with the way that it came out, since I'd never worked with upholstery like that before. I also upholstered around the handle that I'd added in the cutback in the cabinets where the countertop was. This handle actually worked out to be really useful. It's at the right height to reach over, help get in or out of the van. And so the upholstery had to wrap around it. I didn't want to put it underneath the handle and then be getting it dirty. So I just wrapped around and used another piece of the aluminum strip to hold it down around the curvature. So here's the completed cabinets with the lagoon table back in place. And you can see that it's all closed in and the upholstery added up to at least the ceiling. The view from behind the driver's seat here shows how I'll be able to reach around and turn on light switches before getting in the van, or set things on the countertop. and the trim that closed out that area. Overall, I was very happy with how it came out. Once I placed the work surface on top of the Lagoon table, the drawer should still open over the top of it, which is what I wanted so that you could use the drawer even when the table's in place. Thanks for watching today. For those wondering about the inspiration for today's intro, that comes from Unbox Therapy, where they unbox some of the latest technology to hit the marketplace. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. In my next episode, I'll be showing how to build some overhead storage. See you soon. I need a clapperboard. What's up, guys? Giant Travels by Van here. Today I'll finish installing my cabinets. What's up, guys? Brian here from Giant Travels by Van. Today I'll finish installing my cabinets and say something else. Thanks for watching today. Hit the pause or the stop, the red button. Kill it.